Good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I think we could use a little bit more of me, it feels like. Maybe. Or maybe my headphones got turned down significantly. I'm not sure. That's why we always, this is the good news about what we do here. We always make sure we test everything ahead of time. Every day, no matter what. We say we're going to be on top of things and we're not going to have this stuff happen during this show. We're better than that.
I got plenty of you.
That might be true, but I don't know if the people have enough of me. That's the bigger issue. Phew, I am exhausted, man. A hell of a weekend, but hope you all had a good one. I mean, if that's what you think it is, I mean, that's definitely, that sounds better. It sounds crisper but I don't know what it sounds like over the air. That's the unfortunate part about how these things work. If you say so, I will choose to believe you. Coming up this morning, we'll catch up with our buddy Kadri Ismail, get his thoughts on the Ravens win in London. Jeremy Conn will join us, recap the weekend that was. Of course, it's Monday after a win, so we need to get some pats on the ass in for the day and for the Ravens victory. We'll go over the weekend in picks, all that coming up on the program today. Today's show is brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. We're less than 2 weeks away from their big hiring event Saturday, October 28th at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. Great opportunity for you if you've been thinking about a career change, if you feel like you've hit kind of a dead end maybe. If you just sort of don't like where it is that your direction is taking you. You're looking for something with a bit more purpose. You have a passion to serve and you want a career for life, for example. The Baltimore County Police Department is where you should be looking. And you can go over on the 28th and simply ask questions. There'll be members of the specialized units in attendance, and they will be there for the singular purpose of giving you direction. Hey, if you join the Baltimore County Police Force, it might not just be like patrol. There are other career opportunities within the police department. And you can also, if you decide that it's time, go through many steps of the process. The application, written test, agility test, all right there. But even if you say, yeah, I'm good, I've got a great job, I am the producer of a highly successful internet radio show.
See, so I did feel like you were talking to me that whole time.
Well, I said highly successful, so it's not you.
Okay.
It's not you. It's somebody else. If that's where you're at, you're good, then what I would encourage you to do is come anyway. You say, why? Because it's a community event, too. It's an opportunity for you to interact with the Baltimore County Police, but also it's an opportunity for you to get your kids, put them in their costumes, maybe get your brother or your sister's kids, put them in their costumes. It's a trunk or treat event. Really safe environment. If you're a little bit nervous, you're at that age or you're not sure how you're feeling about trick-or-treating, your kids are embarrassed by the idea of you walking around with them, so you don't want to do that, but you're not quite ready to let them walk around by themselves, bring them out for the trunk or treat with the Baltimore County Police Department on October 28th. Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road. Find out more, join BaltimoreCountyPD.com or call 410-887-5542. All right, so we did the Project Game Day postgame show, and I feel like I got a lot off my chest then. And then I wrote a column, and I got to be honest with you, after I reread the column, I still wasn't even sure exactly what I was trying to say. Can I be honest about that for today? It's the weird vibe that I have of how we talk about the Ravens at 4-2. Because they're 4-2. And because as yesterday in the NFL reminded us, nothing is easy and every team is flawed. This thing where we portray as though it's supposed to be like college football, where there are some teams that are just monsters, they're just machines, and they just roll through everybody. It ain't like that in the NFL. That's not the way that it works. And we've known that. And every year we know that. And yet we convince ourselves that if a team isn't meeting certain standards that we set for them, that means that whatever their record is, we're really measuring them against whatever these standards are that we have in our mind. The thing that will jump out the most for the current Ravens is that they are in the middle of the pack for scoring offense. Tied with the Checks Notes Washington Commanders for 15th.
Sam Howell's good. I don't know if you.
Now, I can understand why that alone you would look at and say, yeah, that's not okay. That's not good enough. If you look at the scoring offense and you look at the numbers and you try to point out, like, it's a pretty significant demarcation. After that point, it's hard to find anybody that you think is a viable Super Bowl contender. The only team that you could look at that's beneath the Ravens in scoring offense rankings and say that team could win a Super Bowl really is Cincinnati. And that's only because they got off to a miserable start, and now they're starting to get back into focus of who they are. The scoring was tough throughout the NFL yesterday. Like,
it was definitely
a weird day.
So unless you're the Dolphins, of course.
Yeah, I hope you weren't betting the overs yesterday in the NFL. It was a weird day for scoring. That's the immediate thing to look at. And yesterday, the culprit, of course, would be the red zone, where the Ravens go 1 for 6 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Weird, because they had been a very good red zone offense coming into yesterday. They still are, actually. After yesterday, they're still top 5.
Because they're still coming with points.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that any team goes into the red zone and doesn't come away with points. Like, it's very rare that happens. But, you know, it's just the way that a game went. And for what it's worth, the Titans have one of the top 5 red zone defenses in the NFL. So rubber kind of met the road yesterday. And yesterday was an interesting day because you wonder if it sort of gave some direction about where this team is headed moving forward. A lot of people point out that the Ravens were much more conservative in their decision-making yesterday. Felt more like a team that was prioritizing, let's make sure we win over style points. Did what happened at the end of the first half against Pittsburgh, like, shock the system? Well, remember, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was an error. But it did seem odd, for example, that when the Ravens decided to punt late in the first half, they didn't even bother to send the offense out there to try to draw them off sides. They were going to punt either way. What's a 5-yard penalty to back up and punt when nothing's going to change in those moments? It was interesting that the Ravens didn't even bother going through the ceremony of pretending like they might not punt. You just wonder how much that has impacted them. That felt like it impacted them significantly late in the first half. You're really not even going to try? Like, most of the time when you run your offense back out there to try to draw them off sides, you know you're going to try. Sorry, you know you're not going to try. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it, because in the 1 in a million chance that one of their guys falls over, now you're in field goal range. What yard line were they on? Remind me.
The Ravens, it was 4th and 3 at the Tennessee 46. So they were 4 yards past midfield.
I mean, it's interesting because they suddenly seem allergic to really long field goal attempts.
Because that would have been...
It would have been a 58-yarder. Well, if they had tried from the 46, it would have been a 64.
Yeah.
This would have been a 58, 59-yarder, which I still don't know if they're going to try. Somebody would say, well, why wouldn't you try it?
You're talking about the last drive of the
first half.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
correct.
With 12 seconds left and then the muff punt.
Somebody would say, why not try it anyway? Now, look, they ended up getting the 3 points, but they got that out of a miracle, right?
No, they knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, sure. Somebody would say, why not try it anyway? Well, there's a bunch of reasons why you don't try it anyway. One, apparently the turf was not good at Hotspur or Tottenham or whatever the hell.
Yeah, Tottenham.
Apparently the turf was a mess, so I don't know how that affected their decision-making. But also, you miss it. 12 seconds is plenty of time for them to complete one pass and steal 3 points back the other way. So I understand the decision-making. But I still don't understand why you don't at least run them back out there, because now you have the opportunity, if you can draw them off sides, to run one more offensive play, get yourself perhaps to the 35, and now try a field goal on the final play of the game. Again, not expecting that it's likely. It's just weird they didn't even bother to try. And instead they needed, a gift of gifts in order to get some points before the half. You wonder how much last week impacted John Harbaugh. And if moving forward, he now says, this is who we're going to be. We're going to be a team that values points. We're going to value, all of these, the possession. We're going to value we are not going to be the aggressive team anymore because it maybe doesn't fit our style any longer. Also, they're not very good at bully ball anymore. It's the thing that kept coming back to me yesterday. This thing where they want to be dominant in the run after they build up a lead. They want to be a dominant run team. They're not. They're not that. And they haven't been post-Marshall Yonda. They've never been exactly the same as a dominant run team post-Marshall Yonda. Which isn't to say they weren't better under Greg Oman. It felt like there was a Greg Oman a couple times. Greg Roman the last couple of years. I don't know why they're not a better short yardage run between the tackles run team. I can't really dissect that. Someone smarter than I might be able to. But I also think that is part of the equation here of why it is. It used to be that when they would line up in these fourth down situations, they could literally tell you, here's what we're going to do, and they could just go do it anyway. But they're not a good bully ball team anymore. So I will be interested in how they go about their decision-making and if it changes from game to game, because perhaps when they play the Lions next week and they feel like they need to score more points because the Lions are a more capable offense, they will make more aggressive decisions. Maybe some of their decision-making was just, look, we're playing the Titans. We are not fearful of Ryan Tannehill. It's also weird to look at yesterday's game because you would come out of yesterday's game suddenly feeling like the edge rush has completely solved itself. But you'd be ignoring the fact that 5 of their 6 sacks all occurred on the same drive when Malik Willis was happy to hold on to the football for a long time. Which doesn't mean they didn't do any positive things in the edge rush department. I thought, on the whole, both Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy played pretty well. But it would be dangerous to suddenly say, well, they don't need any help in the edge rush. Look, they got 6 sacks on Sunday. Yeah, 5 of them came on the same drive, which is bizarre. I remember looking back, like, I feel like a few of them happened on that when Willis was on the field. And then I went back and looked, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it was 5 of them. Holy hell. The defense is good. It's a top 5 scoring defense in football. The defense is good. I remember, and what the column was about was sort of what I thought this season was going to be was the pendulum swinging. It ain't that. The pendulum ain't swinging. But that's okay. It's okay because what we're really seeing is an opportunity for this team to end up playing truly complementary football. And as much as we all like the idea of run and gun, go score 80 points a game, that type of offense, complementary football is about the best thing you could ask for. And if the offense can continue to ascend, and again, I still think there's encouragement there. I mean, they got to run the ball better with players not named Lamar Jackson. That's the part that's just, they are not getting into any rhythm. Our friend Femi Ayambadejo pointed out after the game that, like, they're really struggling to tell you what their offensive identity is, and that's fair, too. I think some of that's overrated, right? Like, I don't know that you need to announce what your identity is. I think being balanced would be a very good thing for an offense. But I get it. Lamar Jackson's efficiency continues to stand out. It's not statistically overwhelming. He's not going to be the obvious MVP choice, but his efficiency is outstanding. It's just a weird feeling. And then there's all the esoteric stuff. There's all the, but they got a lead and then they struggled again. And they did, but then they righted the ship. So what do you say? Does it matter that they were struggling? Do you give them credit for handling it better this time around than they handled it the week before?
think it matters that they were able to handle it. I think that.
I think it matters. I agree, but like to what extent?
Right.
And
can they do it against a team that
better
we think is better than the Titans?
Correct. Somebody that doesn't line up Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. Not that Jared Goff is a world beater, but look, man, Ryan Tannehill's got one foot out the door. Let's be honest about it. It's just about over with the Ryan Tannehill experiment. I can't believe that Will Levis is the third quarter. I can't believe they don't look around and say, maybe we should at least give it a shot.
The guy that we took
maybe
33rd, 34th
yeah, maybe we should at least see if this guy could do something. Like, how bad is that guy if he can't be better than this? Because this is dreadful.
Unless they got long-term plans of, a top 5 pick, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. But if that's just to draft another quarterback, then why did you spend an early second-round pick on a quarterback?
Because he was there.
I hear you. And wasn't Willis a second-round pick, too?
Yes, he was.
All they're going to do is keep drafting quarterbacks early for forever. And maybe Levis stinks. I don't know. Like,
it's been that bad in practice.
There's a reason why he wasn't the top 5 pick that some people thought he was going to be. That's for sure. But that's their problem. That's not our problem here. It was a weird day, man. I don't know what's going on with Rashad Bateman. That's such a bummer, right? Like, it's almost tough to watch because you know what he's capable of. And you don't want to pile on. Everybody wants to talk about him not jumping. It's fair to say, like, if he ran the wrong route, jumping's not really going to help there.
Right.
Him jumping,
I don't think it would have.
Probably wouldn't have changed anything. Yeah. I still, like, just for the sake of maybe showing your teammates, like, I'm trying, might have been good to at least attempt. But it was pretty evident that he ran the wrong route. And that's the reason why he didn't jump, because he didn't think he was supposed to jump in that spot. That's tough look, man. That's a tough look. It's hard to figure out what's going on there. And in a weird way, the thing that we talked about before, where, like, there's only one football, it's been hard to figure out who, like, a primary target would be for this team. I still don't know that that's a bad thing. But you do wonder if at some point it's affecting a Rashad Bateman coming back from injury that he's not getting consistent opportunities. There's still an amount of development that needs to happen there. He hasn't played enough. I don't really want to come off negative because they got a good win.
It's too late.
I don't think I'm being negative. I think I'm just reflecting on how strange the circumstances are.
If they scored one more touchdown, like, how much better would we feel? Like, if one of those field goals became.
But the weird part is, like, they covered. Like, they did everything they were supposed to do. They had a 2-possession lead late so that the Titans, all they could do was go and get some window dressing. It's a weird vibe that we're not more excited about a 4-2 football team. And again, I think identity has a lot to do with it. We don't really know what this team is. And it's almost comparable to the Orioles, right? Like, why are they so good? Why are the Ravens 4-2? Why is it that they could, a couple of bounces here or there, be 6-0? The statistics wouldn't change dramatically, right? Like, imagine if they kick a field goal a long Justin Tucker field goal in overtime. Or he just makes the long field goal that he missed, and they win that game. The Steelers game, again, similar. Just, I guess, imagine if they don't complete the pass to Pickens and the Ravens get a stop
or
there.
Lamar doesn't throw an interception.
I guess, yeah, the statistics would all be pretty similar to this. Like, there wouldn't be a lot that would change that would make them a wildly more dynamic offense. But yet they'd be 6-0. And we know they were good, but we still wouldn't know why they were good. That's the weird feel. It's so much easier when some element of your team is wildly dynamic. And when that's the case, you say, well, we can rely on that forever. That's how we know this team is going to be good the rest of the season, is because this unit is good. But we don't know what it is. We're just sort of sitting here saying, well, they're 6-4, or they're 4-2. But we think they're disappointing. it's such a bizarro world, man. I can't give you answers. That's the disappointing part. I know that's sort of what I'm supposed to do when I write these columns. I can't give you answers. I know they're a good football team. It feels like they have a chance to continue to get better offensively. And if that's the case, then they have a chance to be really good. If they continue to get better offensively, I don't think there's any reason to think the defense is going to slip. They have a chance to be really good. But are we confident that they will? One of the things we would always talk about in the past is that like the trade deadline could give you an opportunity to add one more playmaker. And offensively, over the years, we've always wanted that. We've always wanted the Ravens to go out and add one more wide receiver. But I don't think it's a personnel problem offensively. I don't know that it's a problem. They're effective. They're efficient offensively. They're not wildly productive. They're sort of playing still old-school Ravens football, despite the fact that we don't think they really have the personnel to do that. The defense has been better than the sum of the parts. They got a good win. They did. That was a good win. That was a much-needed win. It seems like the decision-making of getting out to London helped them. They were sharper earlier in the game than the Titans were. And they still faced a little adversity, right? Like, they still faced some questionable things. The ejection, I think we all agree it should have been flagged, but I don't know how I felt about Kyle Hamilton getting ejected from the game. The Marcus Williams pass interference was atrocious, was an awful call. And was huge, right? I mean, that was a big yardage gain for the Titans that got them some points early in the game. They handled it. They got the job done. We all want them to look like the greatest show on turf offensively. That's not what they are. They're just a little bit different than that. I think that's okay. Will they need to score more points? They need to score more points than the Washington Commanders do. I do think that's fair. And I think they'll need to score more points in order to beat the Lions next week. I think it's quite the tall task coming back from Europe to ask this defense to shut down the Lions next week. But if they can play good complementary team football, it's not sexy. It's not going to rock your socks, but it might be their path to winning this division and setting themselves up well for the postseason. I feel like we should be having more fun. I feel like we should be enjoying this more. I feel like there should be something more pleasant about being 4-2. It's probably the nature of the two losses. It really probably is. And I feel like everything would change. The statistics wouldn't change dramatically, but our opinion would change dramatically because we wouldn't have seen the evidence of them goofing
and
in those
collapsing
spots.
Almost.
Yes. I think that thing still lingers in our mind every time the Ravens play a somewhat close game. Is every time that happens, we find ourselves saying...
Not even a close game. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yesterday was...
Well, I guess I'm still
was
thinking
a
about
close
the Dolphins game last year and just...
Well, okay. I mean, those...
That game was away and...
It's what it is. It's what it is. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. So I don't know what's going on with Kadri, but you're only allowed to get 2 of these. You're only allowed to have 2 of these issues. So we'll either track him down, or we'll go ahead and get into picks recap, and then we'll move forward and figure it out. That's what we're going to do. It's Glenn Clark Radio. The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate Arts Across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does the restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does the restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition after the Ravens win in London. And if you missed Project Game Day yesterday, you can find it by going to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports and click on the videos tab. We had a whole cast of characters yesterday, not only myself, Rita, and Femi Ayan Badejo, but Josh Charles was checking in with us, as well as Stecca and KZ and our guy Trippy, and we just had a party yesterday, which is weird because, again, we were all talking about the same things, like, we feel good-ish. Like, it was a weird day, but it was a fun day, and if you missed it, I encourage you to check it out. Project Game Day is brought to you by AJ Michaels, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, and Superbook Sports. As always, every game day this season, immediately following every Ravens game, come over and hang out with us. You can also get more details at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday for Project Game Day. Let's do picks recap. Let's go ahead and get into it from the week. Kind of go over the week that was in football. Picks recap, and our lines for picks are always set by Superbook Sports. And if you use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook.com or you download the Superbook app, then you'll get a same-day first bet match up to $250, win or lose. That's Superbook.com or the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark23. Tonight, Cowboys favorites on the road in Los Angeles by 1.5 against the Chargers. That seems interesting to you. Also, you're looking ahead. As Andrew Steck and I were hypothesizing yesterday, the Ravens 2.5-point favorites at home against the Lions. History has not always been kind to teams coming back from London without a bye week. A lot of them have been in very tight games the following week. Not the Jaguars yesterday. The Bills sure were. But if any of these numbers sound interesting to you, again, use that code GlennClark23 at Superbook Sports. I'd rather not talk about Maryland football.
Gosh, I mean,
just as fine not discussing it whatsoever. That is about as horrifying a loss as they could have. And I'm trying to be fair about it because I don't want to be the guy. Like, a lot of people that don't pay attention to Maryland football, it's like, well, it's just same old Maryland. Everything about the day, it just reeks of Maryland football. It reeks of bad weather, non-relevant opponent, and coming off a bummer of a loss, so fans don't really show up. Which some people say, well, that's why Maryland football never mattered because the fans don't.
My sister was there. I was very proud of her that she showed up.
Very good for her. She probably regrets her decision. Probably could have been better ways for her to spend her day than standing in the rain watching Maryland lose to Illinois, who stunk. God. So you start with that factor, right? Like, that feels like Maryland football. Then you add in just a head-scratching performance, particularly in the second half. I mean, I don't have the words for it. Just bad all around. And, look, Maryland's going to be fine. They're still probably going to win 7 games. Go to it. Maybe there's still an 8th win to be found.
Let's see, what do they have left? I mean, they obviously got Michigan and Penn State. They got at Northwestern in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a winnable game.
At Nebraska after Penn State.
That's a winnable game, but they have not historically been good on the road against those, like, in those big environments.
And like out there.
Yeah, in the West, they have not done very well in those circumstances over the years.
And they end the season at Rutgers after Michigan.
Of course, that's a winnable game. Like, there are winnable games still there for Maryland, but they're not going to win over any more of the casual fans in this region by winning those games. And it's not even a certainty that they're going to win those games. What Saturday does that's so damning is they had the opportunity. If they could win all of those games, other than the big ones, if they go 9-3, then even if they lose all the big games, they can say, look, we went 9 wins is a big deal. The opportunity to go win a bowl game and say you had a 10-win season.
They would have to. They have 5 games left. So if they
had beaten Illinois.
Oh, if they beaten, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
I see what
if they had beaten Illinois and the only games they lost all season were the 3 powerhouses, then they would have the opportunity to get to 9 wins, maybe 10 with a bowl game.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing where, like, even if nobody knows how it happened, the casual fan could hear that and say, wow, they won 10 games. Yeah. They could have a chance to finish ranked and win a bowl game. Like, it smells like there's something happening there. Now that's off the table. The only thing at this point they could really do this season to get casual fans and to build it back up would be to somehow stun Penn State or Michigan. Like, they almost have to do that now, or else it's just kind of another Maryland football season. And again, I just saw my guy Jeff Ehrman from Inside MD Sports talking about this on Twitter. Those of us that follow Maryland football, those of us that care about Maryland football, know. Like, we know this is what it is. Like, if you're not going to pay attention until they're a top 10 national team, then you're just never going to pay attention. That's the reality of the circumstances. This is Maryland football. I think that I've said it a million times. I think Mike Locksley is the absolute best coach they could have, and I still think the job might be too difficult. And the infuriating part continues to be, look, this is the part. You want me to take Mike Locksley to task? It is shameful that they continue to shoot themselves in the foot with penalties. It's been years of this. The discipline on that team is, to say lacking wouldn't nearly do enough to describe it. And that's, for all of the good things he does, that falls on him and his staff. The discipline. If you want to matter in the Big Ten, going up against those teams, you can't hurt yourselves the way that Maryland football hurts themselves. And I have no doubt that it's infuriating. And he sits back and it loses sleep. But, and also they've been dealing with injuries, and that is part of the story too. And hopefully the bye week helps them out and they come out of it on the other side a little bit healthier. But that was as atrocious a loss as Maryland football could experience. Just awful. Awful. The only bad news is maybe there weren't that many people watching. The Oregon-Washington game. Yeah, how are you, Colorado? How's that going, by the way? Jesus.
Off night.
Yeah, off night. 29-0.
God, that was...
the Oregon-Washington game was going on at the same time. Maybe all the college football fans in the area just watched that instead. Yeah. Maybe there weren't that many people.
Wish we had picked the Colorado game so you could get a point up on me?
Yeah, right. I don't know what I would have picked in that game. I don't care. Illinois, Ken Zales, Andrew Stecca, and Jeremy Conn were all on Illinois this week. In a week where it was difficult, nobody did better than a game over 500 this week. Like, everybody was bunched up here in this week. Next up, Oregon-Washington ends up being a push. Hell of a game. Hell of a game. A lot of criticism of Dan Lanning for some of his decision-making. Truth be told, I think he had to go for it on fourth down, their penultimate drive of the game, because the dirty little secret in football is if you're going to give up points on the other end, you need to give them up quicker.
Yeah.
What you can't do, goes back to what we were talking about with the
George Pickens.
Correct.
Yeah.
The worst possible thing that can occur is you give them the ball back, they score, and they bleed out the rest of the clock. So if you were going to fail to score on that drive, then you needed them to
do exactly what they did.
Exactly right. And that gave Oregon the opportunity. They got a field goal, a very makeable field goal attempt at the end of the game. They weren't able to capitalize. The problem for Oregon, they're very good at running the football. They're not. I think Bo Nix has been overstated. You could see the clear difference between Michael Penix and Bo Nix as that game went on. Michael Penix, when he needed to make a throw, was making throws. I mean, he is shot. There's now a little separation at the top of the Heisman race. He is one with a bullet at the moment. I'm starting to think that there might be some non-quarterbacks that can get themselves into the conversation if Penix, like Brock Bowers, to me deserves to be in the Heisman conversation, and I mean that.
Could you imagine?
Dude, but do you watch?
Yeah, I mean,
if you watch Georgia football, it's nuts. I didn't watch them play Vanderbilt on Saturday, obviously, but I watched the Kentucky game the week before. Dude, Brock Bowers is that offense.
Michael Penix is minus 135 on.
I can't believe it's only minus 135. What are the rest of the?
Everyone. I mean, it's all quarterbacks. Next closest is Dylan Gabriel plus 600.
All right, I can see Dylan Gabriel still being in the conference. They're still unbeaten.
Brock is on
that
here. Aldrich Estime is.
And also, who's going to beat Oklahoma now in the new Big 12? Like, who are they going to lose to UCF? Who else?
Okay, so Dylan Gabriel, J.J. McCarthy is plus 900, Jaden Daniels plus 900, Jordan Travis plus 1,000.
Yeah.
Bo Nix is down to plus 1,200.
And
Williams,
I'm not trying to say
Drake
that Bo
May.
Nix was bad on Saturday. It's just that you could see the difference. Like, when they needed a big-time throw, Bo Nix is not that guy, but Michael Penix sure as hell was.
Emeka Egbuka is the highest I think that's the highest quarterback. Or Marvin Harrison actually plus 8,000.
I think Marvin Harrison should be in the conference. That's the goofy part, man. Like, if Ohio State beats Penn State on Saturday and Marvin Harrison has a big game, I hate the fact that we just decided the quarterbacks are the only ones that are allowed to win an NFL MVP and the Heisman Trophy, Because, like, if Georgia football goes undefeated this year and you can't see that Brock Bowers is, like, the reason why, it's nuts, man.
Blake Corum, actually, higher than Marvin Harrison, plus 6,000.
Well, I mean, I get it right now. I mean, like, we'll see how that plays out. If Michigan beats Ohio State, then it's the only one that's going to be in the mix.
Well, then when Maryland beats Michigan.
That's a great point. USC Notre Dame, boy, who would have thought? The answer was to trust Notre Dame in a big game. Who would have thought? Notre Dame pounds USC. The goofy part is, like, going into the game, we all talked about USC's defense, but the problem wasn't their defense. The problem was they couldn't score for S. Like, their offense was dreadful. And I know that it wasn't all on Caleb Williams. A lot of it was on the offensive line. Like, he was just running for his life. That was woeful. And then the only time they sort of made a threat in the second half, one play later, Notre Dame ran a kickoff back for a touchdown. So there was just no real competition in the second half whatsoever. That was a disappointing. After Oregon-Washington had been so good, you were like, man, I could settle in. We could get a whole night out of this. And it was a stinker. Nick Kelly, Andrew Stecca, and Jeremy Conn all got that point. Kind of weird that Andrew Stecca and Jeremy Conn didn't have a better week considering they went 2-0 in college football picks.
I feel like I've gone like 0-2 in college football the past. I feel like 3 weeks. I can't. I don't know why I can't. I can't get college. And it just sets up for.
I missed Maryland. I missed USC. I had a bad week too. You also had a bad week because you picked Seattle coming across the country for 1:00 game. Look, it was a crapshoot. They were right in it, obviously, and Cincinnati got a stop in the red zone when they needed to get a stop late. It was nice to be able to watch some football yesterday, although my kids made me take them out and play football with them. Those jerks. And then they made me take them to play putt-putt. Like, those a-holes, didn't they know I had a Sunday where I could sit around and watch football? They were like, you got to be a dad. I'm like, son of a bitch.
It's nice of you, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, I guess Cincinnati, they're back to 500 at 3-3. By the way, right now, every team in the AFC North is coming off a victory. Every team in the AFC North has won the most recent game they played. I don't know how often that happens in a division. It was just sort of an anomaly that I thought about yesterday. I'm like, because, of course, Pittsburgh had a bye yesterday, and everybody else in the division won. So only Griffin, Andrew Stecca, and Jeremy Conn. So all that good fortune they built up in college football picks, Stecca and Conn gave it right back in that game. Griffin did too, as they were the only ones on Seattle. Go figure Washington out. I don't understand that.
Whose idea was to pick this game? I mean,
what did we substitute? Oh, we substitute. Well, we would have all been on San Francisco, so we would have all lost that one.
I don't know. I don't know if I would have decided by Thursday that I was going to be on the Browns, but by the day of, I was like, I think this is a weird spot.
If you say so.
The Jim Schwartz thing.
Only Paul Valley, Kyle Ottenheimer, and Ryan Shell were on Washington in that game. I don't know why they were, but it proved to be the correct decision, as they won outright on the road. Didn't just cover, but won outright on the road. And I think that tells us more about Atlanta than it does Washington. I think we got maybe a little bit too excited by Atlanta's defense and how well they were playing. And you got the reminder yesterday that Desmond Ridder ain't it. I mean stinks.
And their decision to, I don't know why they keep dropping him back 50 times.
I can agree with that. But they were trailing. Part of that is because they were trailing in the fourth quarter, and they had to score, and he ends up throwing 3 picks. I mean, Desmond Ridder stinks. There's just no way around it. He's not good enough to do this. I don't know why they even continued with the experiment for another year. I'm befuddled by that. The answer was always pretty clear that Desmond Ridder was not the guy. I mean, I say that again.
Heineke's the backup, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about maybe they should turn, but this is always the sort of that's purgatory, right? Like when you play Taylor Heineke. Maybe you'll be good enough to be.
They're 3-3 right now. Like, what do they do?
It's such a difficult thing for any NFL team, right? Because you can't just say, well, we don't want to play that guy because then we might win more games. That'd be horrifying to say that. But the truth is, you're going to need a quarterback at the end of the year. And so you'd be better off not winning games and having a better draft pick to try to go get your quarterback. Texans bounce back nicely, get a win at home against the Saints. We were pretty split on that. Only Kyle, Proctor, KZ, and Ryan Shell were on the Saints. That one was a tough one for me because you were dealing with the Saints defense just being so good. But man, C.J. Stroud really does look like the real deal. And I know, like, efficiency-wise, I think he only completed, like, 50% of his passes yesterday, but he made some big ones. He made some really big throws. I think C.J. Stroud's a nice player, and Houston gets that win at home. Indianapolis, I don't know why I think we are all, the London thing did all of us in. Because remarkably, despite the fact that obviously one of these teams was better than the other one, only John Proctor and Ken Zales were on the Jaguars. Now, I was going to be, but I talked myself out of it at the very last minute after seeing that stat about teams coming back from London, remember?
London. Yeah.
What an
and
idiot I was.
the Gardner Minshew thing, I liked that angle.
That had nothing to do. That actually, to me, is the opposite. I don't like the Gardner Minshew thing, but
well, the revenge angle. Obviously.
Sure, the revenge angle. Well, he didn't get it. I don't know if you saw. That wasn't the case. Yeah. Jaguars paced the Colts 37-20. The issue for the Jaguars is Trevor Lawrence gets hurt. I guess the early word is they think he could play on Thursday. And
that's right, they play on Thursday.
Yeah, they play the Saints on Thursday.
I just saw where was it?
I saw an update this morning that suggested that they don't expect it to be significant. They think it's possible he could play. Obviously, there's a
MRI on his knee. This is less than an hour ago. Currently described as day-to-day. Yeah, the belief is no major injury. It's a quick turnaround for Thursday, but the hope is he's okay for it, says Rappaport.
Okay. All right. For fantasy owners, that's good news. For the rest of us,
be a better football game on Thursday night if he plays?
Yeah, it may be a much better football game on Thursday night if he plays. So, there's that. Anyway, yes, that was a comfortable win for the Jaguars, despite the fact, and maybe that's encouraging for you if you're someone who's thinking about the Ravens against the Lions next week, the fact that the Jaguars played so well, despite not having a bye after coming back from London. Obviously, as I mentioned, was
again, we're just kind of spitballing here, but since the Jags were out there a while, they were adjusted to there, and then they came back immediately after, and
I don't know what to make of that part of it, right? If that the more time you spend out there, the easier it is to adjust back. Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. We'll find out on Sunday, I guess. Talk to Tyus Bowser about it tomorrow night on the Tyus Bowser Show. Ooh. Come join us live at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. Tyus and a special guest will be with us. It's all brought to you by A.J. Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. We start at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, the Tyus Bowser Show at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. Find out more, PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. Lions looked the part again. Nobody was really scoring a ton of points yesterday except the Jaguars. But they were dominant defensively. Maybe that's what we're missing with the Lions is I think we had all been paying attention to, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Have the Lions been a better defensive team throughout the season than maybe we realized they were? They
gave up 24 to the Panthers last week. It was 42-24 game.
Okay, but some of that was probably them just throwing a lot.
20 points to the Packers on Thursday nights. They still won by 2 touchdowns. They won 20-6 over Atlanta. 37-31 overtime loss to Seattle. Their only loss on the year. So, it's kind of, 21-20 win over the Chiefs. So, it's kind of...
No, they were definitely impressive defensively yesterday. There's no doubt about that. Holding the Buccaneers to just 6 points and a 2-touchdown win as the Lions very much look the part, 5-1 as they arrive in Baltimore next Sunday. Only Andrew Stecca, Jeremy Conn, and Paul Valley were on the Lions. And only Ryan Chell was on the Titans.
On the Bucs, you mean.
I said on the Bucs. Right, yes. Correct. They were on the Buccaneers. And only Ryan Chell was on the Titans. As I said, I think that there's a weird he's a Titan, the closet Titans fan thing that's involved with that. I don't remember the story, but I'm pretty sure it might even be that at one point in his life he was not a Ravens fan and he was a Titans fan. I don't remember.
How old is he?
I don't remember exactly what he's mid-30s, I want to say.
So there might not have been a Ravens team when he started.
He would have been 8 when the Ravens arrived, I think. Somewhere in that neighborhood, 8, 9. So I don't think it would be that he was a Titans fan because the Titans only existed.
Were they I guess were they?
They were the Oilers, obviously. I just don't know what the story is. I remember asking about it once, but
it's some shady answer.
I either didn't feel like the answer made sense or I don't remember. This is going back a little while, or I just blocked it out because why would I spend that much time thinking about it? But I'm telling you, there's a closet Titans fan story there with Ryan Chell, and that had to do with it had to be the reason why he picked the Titans. And it was a bad decision because it meant that he now tied Griffin for the worst week in the league.
Man,
The good news is it wasn't that much worse than the best week in the league because everyone was between 3-5 and 5-3. 5-3 tied for the best record this week. Nick Kelly, Dr. Nick Kelly, that is, went 5-3. Ken Zales with a very important 5-3 week because it allows him to take over the top spot on the table. Everyone else went 4-4, myself included. It was a big old wash this week. Ken Zales now atop the table by himself, 1 game clear of Andrew Stecca, 2 games clear of Dr. Nick Kelly, 3 games up on Kyle Ottenheimer, 4 ahead of myself, John Proctor, and John Little Rock, 5 in front of Griffin. Griffin went from atop the table.
I know. I've been
just keeps
slumping.
giving games back. It's been a rough
I think I've gone like 3 and 5, 4 straight
Maybe you
weeks
need a side bet. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we should think about that.
I need
for
some
this
pressure.
Week. 5 games back, Griffin and Paul Valley. Ryan is 7 games back, but he's still 17 games in front of Jeremy Conn.
That's all I got to do.
That's all you got to do is
Right.
stay in front of Jeremy Conn, who's not making up ground. I mean, he made up 1 game on Ryan Shell this weekend, but that pace ain't going to work for him. He's got way too much work to do in order to close the gap. Jeremy Conn, 17 games back in the race for our picks contest. Again, the winner of the picks contest gets some cash. It's not a ton. Loser of the picks contest is going to have to take an Irish dance lesson, then come in here dressed like the Notre Dame mascot, perform the Irish dance that they learned, sing Zombie and Nothing Compares to You, consume blood sausage, haggis, and tripe, and wash it all down with a Will Levis Irish coffee full of mayonnaise. It's going to be a hell of a day for the rest of us, other than the person that loses. And right now, Jeremy Conn, he's going to have to start making some noise. I mean, Jeremy's going to need an 8-1 week in there at some point in order to give himself a shot at digging out of this hole. He might have bit off a little more than he could chew. He also might just be sexually aroused by the idea of doing all of these things. He's a weirdo.
Tanking.
It's possible. And that's all he saw. He was like, I could put on my sexy Notre Dame mascot costume and come in here and get it on a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what that means. That's our picks recap for the week. Should we just go ahead and do?
Yeah, I think we should.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Not great. I don't know what happened there. It's one of my best friends. Do I need to text? You want me to text him?
I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt.
Do I want to text him right now, or should I deal with it after the show?
I
don't want to harass. If you're with Kadri Ismail right now up at the Arena Club, would you please tell him, like,
give us a call?
Yeah, right. Would you please tell him? I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, why don't we? Okay, we can take a break. Let's just take a break, and then we'll come back in. And when we come back in, we'll dive into Pats on the Ass. Get me yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Which 5 Ravens are most deserving of praise for their performance? Tough week for only picking 2 defensive players if you chose. This was a really tough one because you had to include 2 offensive players, and it was the defensive players and obviously the 1 special teams player that stood out the most. So you had to leave somebody off the list. I thought there were 4 guys for me between defense and special teams that were all very deserving, and I had to leave one of them off the list, and I didn't like that. And it was tough to do. But that's the rules. 2 offensive players, 2 defensive players. The 5th can be whatever you'd like, another offensive player, another defensive player, a special teams player, or a coach. Rank them 5 to 1, with number 1 being your man of the match. Who you got on your list? We'll talk about it next. Pats on the Ass here on Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 17th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels. And if you or a loved one have a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate Arts Across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
All right, back in here on GCR. Coming up a little bit later on today, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson. They're going to get together with you at 4:15. 4:15 to talk some Orioles. It's their first show together since the end of the playoff run, to talk about the rest of the teams that are still in it. Obviously, last night, Jordan Montgomery continues his spectacular postseason as he shuts down the Astros over 6 1/3 and a 2-0 win for the Rangers. So they are still unbeaten in the playoffs. 6-0 now in the postseason for a Rangers team that couldn't win a game down the stretch. Baseball's weird, man. Really weird. Game 2 of the ALCS is the first game, so that's the 4:30 game today.
Ooh,
and then game 1 of the NLCS.
Baseball.
Yeah, late daytime, but yeah, it counts as daytime baseball. And then game 1 of the NLCS is tonight at 8 o'clock. So we'll talk, or they'll be talking baseball. Stan, Ross, and Luke coming up a little bit later on. Hour number 1 of today's show is just about in the books. I'll pull back the curtain. On the way in this morning, Griffin was like, well, we only have, Jeremy and Kadri lined up. Like, do you want me to? There was something else that was supposed to happen today, but it just wasn't coming down. And I was like, you know what? Nah. I think that's good, right? Like, maybe we won't go to 1 o'clock for a change. Maybe we'll have a nice normal time for the show to end. Like, maybe it'll work out okay if we just have Jeremy Conn. Now I'm waiting for Jeremy to say, like, oh, I'm getting my teeth pulled today or something like that. Just tends to be the way these things go. Right. And also in our business, the London game was always going to be difficult. A lot of times we'll try to have, like, players come on the day after a win. they're not always in the mood to do it on days after losses.
Why?
Last week wasn't even an option because they were flying out to London.
Right.
But I was like, hey, let's maybe leave some guys alone because they're coming back after a long flight and they might be. So I said, yeah, I think we'll be okay with just. And now I'm just waiting for us to have no guests. Go 0 for today. That's okay. Obviously, a weekend of football to discuss. Let's get into Pats on the Ass. At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Want you to get me yours. Pats on the Ass, brought to you this week. How about that brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel, Griffin? Why don't you tell everybody what's going on there?
Maybe you were betting the overs yesterday, or I don't know, you looked at my picks, I guess, and decided to tail me on a few of my picks, and that didn't go well for you. But over at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, you can turn those losses into winning opportunities with the Second Chance to Win promotion between now and January 4th, 2014. All Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to enter their losing bet slips into the Second Chance to Win drum, and 2 nights a week, 20 different winners will be chosen. Prizes ranging from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports and social, ultimate happy hour prizes, plus cash and free play worth up to $500. Drawings will be held every Thursday and Monday at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right. I think everybody else is dealing with the same problem that I was dealing. Somebody was going to have to be left off the list. And I'm just going to tell you flat out who got left off my list. And some of you are going to think it's shameful. I think others of you will understand. The longest kick that Justin Tucker made yesterday was 41 yards.
You left Tucker off?
I left Justin Tucker off the list. But this goes back to what I talk about when a guy is the guy that runs in the 2-yard touchdown, that to me isn't the story. I don't think that Justin Tucker did anything spectacular yesterday. I think it would have been breaking news if Justin Tucker missed any of those kicks yesterday. They were 41 yards and in. It would have been an abomination for him to have missed one of those kicks yesterday. So I'm getting it out of the way. I decided that 3 defensive players needed to be on the list because Justin Tucker didn't make a kick that was longer than 41 yards. I also think that there was an argument for Devin Duvernay because he finally made his first play of the season, but again, there was too much of a crowd. Like if I was picking a special teams player, obviously I would have picked Tucker over Duvernay. It's a shame that Duvernay finally makes a big play and,
Tucker makes 6 field goals.
Right, and the defense. The defense, there were too many candidates. So I'm just getting it out of the way. Look, if there was a number 6 on my list, if I was allowed to have 3 defensive players, I just thought there were 3 defensive players. Frankly, if I'm being honest, Patrick Queen didn't make my list either, and I think he was better than Justin Tucker. So that's the nature of the beast, man. Like when all your kicks are 41 yards and in, it's like trying to reward somebody for running the ball in from 2 yards out. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad, because it would have been a nightmare if you didn't. But just on a day where there were a lot of candidates, the sheer volume to me was not enough to overcome that. So now that's out of the way. Let me get to my list. My number 5. I don't really know how well he played for the day, right? Because that's sort of the nature of being a safety, is nobody's really watching you otherwise. But they needed a playmaker, and Geno Stone has proven to be a playmaker this season. It's kind of wild how it's played out. Like, what a story Geno Stone is. 7th-round pick, off the team altogether. I don't remember who picked him up. Who picked him up at one point? He was on another team at one point before he ended up coming back. I can't remember where he ended up, and it was brief. Like, he ended up on somebody else's roster for a short period of time, and then he ended up back with the Ravens.
The Texans. They waived you got COVID in December 2020, and then they waived him on December 28th, and then he was claimed by the Texans on the very next day.
Yep.
And then in 2021, they were able to bring him back in over the offseason as a free agent.
So he was gone for a week, basically, at the end of the regular season.
2.5 months, yeah.
Well, but it was the end of the regular season, so
the
Texans probably had him for a week at that point before Geno Stone became a free agent again, and the Ravens scooped him right back. And now he's looking like a guy that might have a chance to get a contract this offseason. Huge play, exactly when the Ravens needed it. And Geno Stone's been a sort of stunning playmaker this season. I don't know that we saw that coming. Geno Stone is number 5 on my list.
He was the one that I had the most trouble leaving off my list because I went a more traditional route, I guess. But, so I had 2 defensive players, 2 offensive, and I went with Tucker as my 5. Justin Tucker was my 5.
I get it.
It was 6 field goals.
I get it. We just had the conversation about it. I don't need to say anything more. He would have been in the equation. I thought there were too many good defensive players yesterday for me to have put Justin Tucker on my list, but this is not like some of your list issues. This is not egregious. This is just a difference in opinion, and that's totally fine. Number 4 for me is Zay Flowers, and a little bit is that he finally gets the first touchdown, and that's cool, but more it's the trying to see someone who becomes kind of a reliable weapon, and we're seeing more and more of that from Zay Flowers. Obviously, everybody had a rough week last week, and for the most part, everybody bounced back. Mark Andrews had a nice day yesterday as well, but Zay Flowers stands out, 6 catches, 50 yards, and, of course, that first touchdown, which, to be fair, was way more about Lamar Jackson than it was about Zay Flowers, but still, nice day for Zay.
Yeah, same thing. I thought he looked really good. He's the most targeted receiver, had the most yards after catch, had the most receptions, and scored his first career touchdown. So, yeah, Zay Flowers, my 4 as well.
It was difficult for me. I wavered on who should be 3 and who should be 2. Ultimately, Jadeveon Clowney ended up being my number 3. I do have to measure some of this against, there was some stat padding going on at the end of the game when Malik Willis was just holding on to the football. But on the day, Jadeveon Clowney was a wrecker. And it was, I'm sure, a good feeling for him to just finally get sacks, like finally not be Mr. Almost again, like Marlon Humphrey called him a couple weeks ago when we told everybody to F off on the IG Live, which was really funny. I don't know how – it's a difficult thing to talk about, right, because I'm going to say what I said before. I don't want to overreact to what they did in the rush department yesterday because I think the numbers will lie to you a little bit. That said, I did pull up let's see if I can still find this. I looked up win rate. Hang on a second. Yes, man.
Glenn pulling up the next-gen stats.
I don't know how next-gen this is anymore. Hang on a second. Here we go. And Jadeveon Clowney's number is really good. Like, this is
his win rate.
His win rate for the season. Jadeveon Clowney, ESPN's pass rush win rate. Jadeveon Clowney is number 10 in the NFL. You want to try to guess who's in front of him?
T.J. Watt.
No.
One
T.J. Watt is number 16.
The Bosas.
No, Nick Bosa is 13. Joey Bosa doesn't show up on the list.
Cameron Hayward's not healthy. Man, I don't know.
Some of them are you should be getting. Some of them are pretty clear.
Danielle Hunter.
Not Danielle Hunter, oddly.
Who has a better one?
But there's another guy that we're trying to will our way to Baltimore.
Max Crosby.
Not Max Crosby. No, the guy that we think
Chase Young.
How are you forgetting the guy that we think is actually on the
Brian Burns?
Thank you, Brian Burns, who is a pending free agent. Brian Burns is currently 7th on the list. It's a weird list, right? Boy Moff or Boy Mafe or whatever. I actually don't even know how to pronounce his last
Boy
name.
Moff sounds like a Star Wars. We'll go Mafe.
Yeah, right. Boy Mafe in Seattle is number 1. Then Bradley Chubb, Micah Parsons, probably one of the ones that you should have guessed.
Yeah, should have.
Miles Garrett, somebody you probably should have guessed.
These guys aren't available, so they're not on my mind.
Will Anderson, who's been awesome. He's 5th. Trey Hendrickson, not surprising. Brian Burns, as I mentioned, 7th. Samson Ekebom is number 8. I don't even know who this person is. Bryce Huff is number 9. He apparently plays for the Jets. And then there's Jadeveon Clowney at number 10. Jadeveon Clowney this season with a 24% pass rush win rate, according to ESPN, actually tied with Arden Key. So let me take that back. But he has had more opportunities than Arden Key, so that's why he's listed first. It matters. It does matter. And Jadeveon Clowney has been a help. But what I would say is they still need more help. And while I'm not quite as concerned, a year ago I thought that Justin Houston, halfway through the season a year ago, looked like an all-pro. Looked like, he was special. And there was every reason for us to say, are we sure this can continue at this rate? I think Jadeveon Clowney can keep performing well, even if it's not translating to sacks. I still think they need someone else. Like, it's an awkward conversation to have. But Jadeveon Clowney was very good yesterday, and he's number 3 on my list.
So I did have to leave Clowney off of my list as well. I went with Kyle Van Noy right here. Because he played a few more snaps. I think it also has to do with that, expectation thing. He came in last week and
I hear
he was
you.
big, and I liked that.
Yeah, he batted a pass down
yes,
too.
and through the entire game he was influencing. Even though they weren't getting home to Tannehill, they were making Tannehill uncomfortable, and that batted pass led directly to the Duvernay punt return.
I hear you. The awkward part about that, like, is if you the fact that it means that neither Roquan nor Patrick Queen, specifically Queen, I thought Queen had a great day yesterday. This goes back to your awkwardness, Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen was tremendous yesterday. Roquan was good too. Maybe it's a reminder that when you're not making individual plays, although Queen had a sack, when you're not making individual plays that stand out, then it becomes a bit more difficult. But it's I don't think I could put Kyle Van Noy ahead of those guys. I do get the argument, but we got it. I'm not going to do the 20-minute Sermon on the Mount thing. We can't always have it be about. Yeah, I'd say it can't always. It's not supposed to be about who outperformed expectations. It's supposed to be about who did what. It's just supposed to be a measurement of the game. I
thought the batted pass was a really big deal.
I do agree the batted pass was
backed it up the rest of the way.
The batted pass
too,
was a big play. He added a sack late. I don't know that he was great.
And he wears a real
game.
pass rusher number.
Oh,
so.
for God's sakes! All right, there we go. There's Griffin. Number 2 is Lamar Jackson, who was very efficient yesterday. The only negative that you would point out is the interception, and it's pretty clear that was on Rashad Bateman and not on Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I'd have to really go back and watch it a few times to see if there's anything that a quarterback can do in a spot where when do you recognize the receiver has run the wrong route. I thought that was such a quick route that it was probably impossible for him to recognize that Bateman had run the wrong route, and it just was what it was. But he was great. And add in that, like, a couple of the plays that he made, like the
3rd and 3.
The 3rd and 3. I mean, what do you say about that? It's just bat-S insanity. Even the touchdown to Zay Flowers was a Lamar Jackson special. I get that he's not doing – this is not 2019 Lamar Jackson, but it's a reminder that the dude is just capable of doing things that other humans are not capable of doing sometimes. And you got a few reminders of that yesterday on a day where he was overall very efficient, even if it wasn't necessarily explosive from the Ravens offense. I don't know how to measure explosiveness versus efficiency and which one is better. And I don't know, man. But it was a really good day for Lamar Jackson. He's number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 as well. I mean, he's the run game and the pass game right now.
Yep.
He is everything that this offense is right now. And, as they were slugging along, once they realized, Lamar Jackson is our run game, and they started, running some more QB runs and just letting him just do Lamar Jackson things, then they started to pick it up a little bit more there in the second half. Not a ton, but they picked it up enough that they were able to still win relatively, not comfortably, but, make this win, not stress. Yeah,
right.
Not stress down the stretch there. So Lamar is my number 2 as well.
And then, to me, the best player on the field, bar none, was Justin Madubuike. Justin Madubuike was a monster, was an absolute monster yesterday. And now you start to wonder if they might have to franchise tag Justin Madubuike at the end of the season. He was a terror. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to oversell it. I hate it when we fall into tropes and like people are like, well, maybe he's a little bit closer to Aaron Donald than you guys think. Keep it in your pants. Yesterday was a great day for Justin Madubuike. He was awesome. Just awesome. But let's not go too far with that. I hope there is a path for the Ravens to keep Justin Madubuike around, but let's also not anoint him as a Lodi Nada either. He's a very good football player who has had some really stunning days, and yesterday was a really stunning day. Justin Madubuike was incredible.
This is why, since the whole front performed well, I wanted to go with the coach again, Chuck Smith, and the whole linebackers. No, I went with Justin Madubuike.
Okay, I was like that. I was listening. I was like,
I was between Anthony Weaver and Chuck Smith.
I'm like, I don't. It's
he had the same stat line as
it's
Clowney,
weird.
but Madubuike had to deal with Derrick Henry as well, and they did a great job of just
save for one play.
Save for the
obviously.
one play that he got outside, so it wasn't But yeah, Madubuike had an incredible day, and the whole.
You know what the really funny part was? Is like my reaction probably wasn't what you wanted there.
Wanted you to flip out, yeah.
Because I'm like, can I listen to this? Is this crazy? Is this? Maybe it's not crazy.
Broderick Washington, Michael Pierce.
It wouldn't have worked because you already put Justin Tucker on your list, so you
Yeah.
couldn't have done
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you're right. Maybe that's what it was.
So
Gave it away.
Didn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, and had to leave Roquan. I liked. I mean, the play that Roquan letting Chigaquanko.
Yeah, the 2-minute warning thing,
get
right?
up.
Yep. That was very smart.
was-
I know our guy Spencer shared that on Twitter, and it was not that I think that it's going to make a difference in the football game. I think we also kind of oversell that a little bit. Like, what were the Titans really going to do there? But sure, like, why not?
It bled out that extra 2-3 seconds.
And the point that Spencer made, which is it's just smart football. And there's so many times where you don't feel like players are thinking 2 steps ahead. Like, they're not. And I get it. Like, in the moment, all they can think about is what's in front of them. But it's the little things, like a quarterback who, let's just say Lamar Jackson had taken it upon himself to say, no, we're going to line up at the end of the first half, and we're going to try to get a free 5 yards. And it's a small thing because, again, it's not likely to work, but it's just these little things. If Chigaquanko stays down, then it doesn't matter what Roquan Smith does there, right? Like, if Chigaquanko just says, dude, I gave myself up, if I get up, you're just going to tackle me again, then whatever. But it's thinking about it. It's the fact that he's considering the value of the 2-minute warning. And maybe it's a conversation they had again after what happened against Indianapolis. Hey, guys, we need to be thinking situationally more. We need to have a deeper conversation. You guys need to be in tune, not just with what are we barking at you, but you need to have awareness. Now, Roquan Smith's such a high-level player that I don't think that he needed to be reminded that, but it's something that has to happen. Sometime, maybe that week, everybody. So you guys need to be looking at the clock. You need to be looking at circumstances and figuring out what makes sense in those moments. I thought Roquan had a very good day. I thought Patrick Queen had a whale of a day. I thought Kyle Van Noy had a nice day. There were a lot of candidates. There were an awful lot of candidates defensively and special teams. And that's what everybody's sort of come away with, the list that we've had come in from Dylan. 1 Madubuike, he's 2 Van Noy. He's with you there. 3 Clowney, 4 Flowers, 5 Jackson. Paul Novilando, 5 Flowers, 4 Lamar, 3 Madubuike, 2 Gino, 1 Clowney. Tony Thornton from BAL. What's up, Tony? 5 Lamar Jackson, 4 Zay Flowers, 3 Gino, 2 Madubuike, and 1 Justin Tucker. I couldn't do that, man. You got to make like a
scored 18 points. What are you
got to make like a 55-yarder or something.
He
something
alone won the game.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Your boy PFF Sean's doing some shtick today. Put Kyle Hamilton on his list
for setting the tone.
I think for like trying to make a free Hamilton statement or something like that. There's a million things he could have done. We talked about it earlier. I don't think it should have been an ejection. I think that ejection should be saved for obvious intent and obvious dirty plays. And that wasn't that. That was an attempt at making a football play. I get it. And it's funny, listening to Femi talk about it on the postgame show yesterday, I understood what Femi was saying, which is like, I don't think there was any intent there. I don't think it was dirty. But given everything I've been through, I'm still going to err on the side of player safety and tell you that I'm okay with it. And I understand that. If the statement, it wasn't the refs who made the call. It clearly came from New York. And if their point is, even if there's not intent here, this is the exact type of play we're trying to eliminate from the game. Because what would be easy to say if he doesn't get ejected is, well, yes, it's a personal foul. You still separated the catch. And giving up 15 yards is bigger than, that would have been like a 27, something like that, yard gain.
Yeah.
So there's still a benefit to players doing that. So if the bigger statement...
And if it was in the end zone, it would have saved the touchdown.
Right.
So.
If the bigger statement the league's trying to make is, we needed to be very clear. You don't come flying in like that. It's not going to be better to break the play up than it's going to be to deal with the consequences. Because the consequences are going to be you're getting tossed out. I understand the statement. I think it's difficult to adjudicate because these are things that happen. Ray Lewis used to talk about this all the time. Ray Lewis was like, look, I'm not changing the way I play the game. When the rules started changing with defenseless receivers, said, if I get penalized, I'm going to get penalized. The game happens too fast. I'm not, in that split second, going to have any time to think about, is this the type of hit that is going to end up getting the team penalized? This game happens too fast. So I think that makes it difficult. I understand it feels kind of like collateral damage, right? The collateral damage of trying to protect players is you're asking defensive players to do the impossible. It's why we go back to the rules, right? Like, go back to the first drive of the game. Yesterday was a reminder of why edge rush is so important, because on that first drive of the game for the Titans, they didn't really do anything. And yet, they were gifted
PI after PI.
I mean, the first one we could have a conversation about. The first one, while the call came in late on Marlon Humphrey, I do think there was a hook there.
Grab the hand.
I do think there was enough there. Like, a lot of people were yelling about it, but I'm okay with that.
I think it was just because I guess the flag was late.
The flag was late, and so that's the frustrating part there. But I think they got that one right. The Marcus Williams one, not a chance. Marcus Williams has the same right to the ball as anyone else does in that moment. He didn't go through. He went up trying to make a play on the ball. That was atrocious. But it's a reminder of how difficult it is to play defense in the NFL. And I think the Kyle Hamilton thing is another reminder of that, too. Trying to make a play ends up getting ejected from the game. I disagree, but I do understand the leaning towards protecting players. Randy Morgan, Lamar 5, 4 Tucker, 3 Duvernay. Nah, it's cheating, man. Randy, that's cheating. I didn't catch it at first. That's cheating.
Wait, what was it again?
He put Tucker and Duvernay on the list, and he's trying to cheat and make Duvernay an offensive player. Nope.
Did he play an offensive snap?
I don't even know if he played an offensive snap.
He played 15 offensive snaps.
Even if he did, that's not the reason why he's on the list. He's on the list because of what he did in special teams. You can't put 2 special teams. Somebody's going to say, well, what if there's a day what if Duvernay had run it back for a touchdown? Rules are the rules, baby. You want me to go up? You want me to change? They're written all the way up there. I don't even think we have a ladder that size. We can't change the rules. It's what it is, man. Sorry. Got to pick which one mattered more. That's the way that it goes. So, Randy, I take it back. I'm taking back my retweet. You cheated. Sorry.
Maybe
You're
someone would put Keaton Mitchell as their special teams player, just because the first day that we had like a well-rounded special teams.
What are you doing? Was the way that Keaton Mitchell arrived?
Keaton Mitchell was on the field.
Jesus.
Running backs are.
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be the case. All right, continue to get me yours throughout the day. @Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Just @Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter for Pats on the Ass, and we will continue to share them throughout the course of the day. Oh, boy. Really, this is it. Today, I believe, is the last day for this print issue of Press Box, and then it is gone. Next print issue, as we talked about on Friday, will be a celebration of the survivors, if you will, the Orioles players who came from the Duquette regime, the position players who stuck around through the losing and played significant roles in getting the team back to prominence. That will be available starting tomorrow. Collage featuring Austin Hayes and Cedric Mullins and Anthony Santander and Ryan Mountcastle on the cover. You can go get that at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. That print issue, which will hit newsstands tomorrow. When we come back in, we think our buddy Jeremy Conn is going to join us. We'll talk about whatever's on his. I want to talk about awkward hugs. I had a thing that occurred this week, and I want to have a conversation about it next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 17th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and AJ Michaels, and if you or a loved one have a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? AJ Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Make sure you're tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Conn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program after the Ravens win in London against the Titans. Today's show brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. Coming up Saturday, October 28th, Public Safety Building in Towson, 700 East Joppa Road. The Baltimore County Police Department hosting a community and hiring event. The community aspect, it's a trunk or treat. Very safe opportunity for you to get your kids, get them in their costumes, get them looking adorable, come out, get some candy in a safe, comfortable environment hosted by the Baltimore County Police Department. It's also an opportunity as the Baltimore County Police Department wants to continue to build trust within the community. If you know, you or someone you know is someone who just simply has not had a lot of interaction with the police and does not feel comfortable around police, it's a good day to simply interact with police. That day, the Baltimore County Police Department. Then add on that if you have considered perhaps a career in policing, this is your chance. Every step of the process, application, written test, agility test, you can do it all at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson on Saturday, October 28th. Find out more, join BaltimoreCountyPD.com. You can also give them a call, 410-887-5542. Baltimore County Police Department hosting that hiring and community event on Saturday, October 28th. Joining us now, this man made a late decision to hop into our picks contest, and he has just not closed the gap. He is still 17 games down. Still a lot of time left, but he needs to make some moves at some point. From the Big Bad Morning Show on 105.7 The Fan, ConcreteLocks.com, and picks every day at PressBoxOnline.com. He's our buddy Jeremy Conn, and he's back with us here on GCR. What's going on, pal? How are you?
This isn't one where I can unplug the video game system.
No.
At the Super Bowl, is it?
No, you are in trouble, man. I understood the hubris, and I still I don't want to say too much because I'm very worried that at some point you're going to have like a 9-0 week, and all of a sudden we're going to look back and say, oh right, this was always
coming.
Yeah.
I know it's coming. It's just a matter of, does it come soon enough to at least give me a shot, or is it something where, hey, I have a great week, but I've already buried myself too far, you know?
Yeah, so. Tough. And it's not like Jeremy's been performing poorly. It's just that he hasn't been able to make up ground. It's sort of been all 500 weeks for the most part since he jumped in the contest.
Well, that was the part, because I don't get to pick the games.
That's correct.
Again, I'm not complaining about that.
That's the difference. What you see at ConcreteLocks.com and what you see at PressBoxOnline.com, that's Jeremy perusing and saying, no, these are the ones. Like, I can look at these numbers and say, these are the ones. We force him to pick our games, and that's why things are a little bit different. Hey,
I love it.
Before we get into, like, football and all that stuff, I want to talk to you about something. I had a moment on Saturday night where I was out picking up some takeout food to bring home to Mrs. Clark, and I bumped into an old friend from high school. And I hadn't seen her.
I saw a picture.
I hadn't seen this girl in 20 years. Like
I was thinking it was the other picture with the guy, so I wasn't being serious.
No.
An old friend.
No. Like legit 20 years. I hadn't seen this girl, and she saw me. She's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Oh my God, hey." I'm like, "Wow, this is crazy." But then I didn't know what to do, and I went to give her a hug, and I sensed that she was maybe not as like interested in the hug part of it. And then I said, I don't know what happened. Am I going to be Me Too'd? And it reminded me, I have thought about this for 7 years. A friend of mine who works in the TV sports business, who I worked a broadcast with, and we were very friendly, and I saw her, and she came up to me and gave me a big hug, and then leaned her face in like she was about to give me like that like French kiss on the cheek thing. And so I was like, oh, I guess that's what we're doing. And so I gave her a kiss on the cheek, and then it was very clear that wasn't what she was doing, and it was awkward. And I have thought about it, I swear to God. And I happened to see a game she was working this weekend, and I was like, oh, no, I bet she still hates me. I think about those moments. They give me the heebie-jeebies and the douche chills more than anything. Do you have any awkward hug stories from over the year, anytime that you had a particularly uncomfortable interaction with someone that you still think about to this day?
Oh yeah, there's been plenty, because like I'm one to kind of like suck it up and wash my hands later, but you know in our line of work, like people want to take pictures, people want to shake hands, and like I'm all for it. I'm, you know, like I've said it before, like I talk to people all the time, like I'm closer to white trash than upper class, so I'm more likely to buy you a beer and give you my cell phone number than probably most of the people that are on the air. So, but that being said, like there's always those awkward ones where somebody comes up and you're like, this guy's hygiene is no bueno. And you just kind of got to grin and bear it. I'm just trying to think of like some other ones. Like,
okay, but wait a second. Like we can call a spade a spade. I don't know if he's listening or not, but God bless him. You wouldn't hug Till, would you?
I have.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm actually worried about whether or not there might be a venereal disease. Like I'm
from
sorry.
a hug.
You know, I feel bad about that. Like I met Till's brother.
You catch crabs from a hug?
I met
That's
Till's
not
brother
right.
recently. Till's brother is great, and it's like I don't want to seem like I'm disparaging Till because he means well. He means well. He's a very nice guy. But it's the same thing. Like I knew Rick really well. I never hugged Rick. Like I always had a line where I was like, it's good to see you, pal, but maybe we'll fist bump. Like that's going to be how we interact.
It kind of, but I've had those, you know, the fist bump or the handshake, and then especially when the pandemic hit, those are a little different. I was just trying to think of something that, you know, since I'm not saying you did put me on the spot.
I did.
But I expect
I'm
that.
sorry.
It's a question,
I know.
you know?
I know.
No. It's not like if you'd have texted me on Saturday, I'd come up with this great answer. I just don't. I'm
You'd
trying to remember one.
Imagine Jeremy spending 2 days. Mrs. Conn's like, hey, hun, do you want to go out apple picking? And he's like, no. No.
I'm thinking about handshakes.
Glenn asked me a question about awkward hugs, and until I give him the greatest answer known to man, I refuse to do anything else.
How I'll give you one. How about the handshake with someone who's severely drunk and they just keep going? Like, they don't
there's
let
a
go,
lot of those.
or they keep hugging you. When you're trying to say goodbye to a group of people and they won't let you leave, oh yeah, man, I'll see you next time.
Do you know what about the emotional hugger? And this can be drunk or it can just be in like excitable moments. The emotional hugger, like the person that gives you multiple, like they give you a hug and then they come back over to you and give you another hug afterwards. And I'm going to text you the name of somebody who is like this. This one I think will legitimately.
I think I know who you're texting me.
No, I bet you don't. I almost texted it to the person. Oh, that would have been really awkward once you see. Oh, God.
Look at this jackass. He likes to hug all the time.
You're going to be blown away by this one because I don't want to give too much. I just texted you the name of someone who is an emotional hugger. Like,
oh, my God, Griffin?
Yeah, exactly right. He's a very emotional hugger.
Oh, that's his emotional kisser. That's weird, too.
They're actually,
I don't know you, but
they're sensitive, actually, is really what they are. He's a very sensitive kisser. Hang on. I'm going to write down the name so Griffin can see it, too. That person.
All right, I'm looking at it now.
That person is a very emotional hugger. Like,
and as soon as I see the name, I totally understand it.
That person, in big moments, will, like, walk over 3 different times. So at other times, want to fight you. But in big moments and emotional moments will go out of their way. And I swear to God, there was one time, and I will say it occurred in Kansas City, where I had to walk away at one point because it was weird. Like, it was weird what was going on in these circumstances. Those people that, like, it almost feels like I'm having a moment and I want to make sure you're having a moment too. Like, are we experiencing this together? And you're like,
you said, I'm sorry, you said weird, and I was just reminded of this moment that I told a joke around people that I didn't know. I was saying, man, it was really strange yesterday. My neighbor came up to me. He said he wanted me to meet him in the woods on Sunday and measure our penises. And then I said, what a weirdo. The guy didn't even show up. The one guy goes, what?
I saw you share that. That was very good. That was
I'm
very
sorry. As soon as you said
weird.
No, I really went to that earlier.
What a weirdo. Sorry. He didn't even show up. No, that was very good. That one I love.
But I could see the person you're talking about being an emotional hugger.
Dude.
There's no question.
Dude, it's very hard to explain because there's other times this person is very standoffish. And then in big moments, and I can tell you, I don't know how you are, like when you're having fun, when you are creating like a core memory, when you go out and do something like a great concert or just a great night out with friends. And there's a part of you that wants to know that the people that you're around are experiencing a similar core memory. And then you look around and you're like, are they, or is this just another night in their calendar year? And you end up doing like the recap thing. Guys do this all the time, by the way. When we were younger, we did this with sex. This is a straight shoot. When you would have sex with a girl, you would start recapping the sex that you had. And she would be like, yeah, I know, I was there. Like, I remember I was there. But we were having a moment because we were like, wow, this attractive woman wanted to have sex with us. That doesn't make any sense. And we had it.
Really convinced her.
Right?
Yeah.
But we
and
do
that
this.
was, see, I didn't get to have those conversations since I didn't have sex until after I graduated high school. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say that I feel like this was a thing that existed for me until probably my mid-20s. I think it was until my mid-20s that I was still with sex, like, dude, what about that time? You're like, Glenn, it was 3 minutes ago. We went for like 5 minutes. I remember everything that happened. You don't have to recap any of it. Like,
yeah, I get it.
But we're having a moment. And I feel like it transcends. Like you go to a concert that means something. I have a buddy named Dan. I love Dan. The first time we saw the Manchester Orchestra together, afterwards he went to talk to me about it for an hour, and I was like, dude, I really enjoyed the show. Like we don't need. And I got it though, because I know I can be like that sometimes. Where I think we had like a special radio show one day, and I just wanted to talk about it. I feel like it's within nature of humans to want the other people there to be having the same type of moment that you're having.
Yeah, it's weird. Like even watching the Ravens game yesterday and just being around people. As soon as they, kick their fifth or sixth field goal, people just start standing up and high five, and we come to expect threes and not sevens. But I think sports and music are the two things, and maybe I'm missing something else that'll just have you randomly high five somebody you don't know because you're just in the moment.
I think that's fair. Probably a fair point. I'm trying to think of anything else. Sex, right?
Maybe if it's a threesome in an Eiffel Tower, you can high five somebody you don't know. And
Jeremy,
anyway.
I've told you the time when I had my first threesome, I spent a week walking around high-fiving strangers. I'm not. I tell people this story still sometimes, and I'm like, you don't understand. For a week, I just walked around and high-fived strangers. And they were like, did you really? I'm like, no, I did. I walked down the street, and I approached someone and said, hey, bro, high five. Because I was walking on air for a week.
I bet you were, because, see, I never got to experience anything cool like that. Like,
yeah, but you should have seen
sleeping bag. That's about it. But the hardest thing about having sex in a sleeping bag is your Scoutmaster's breath on your neck. You know that, right?
Yeah, but he was hot. He was really good looking, man. And I was about to say, and you should have seen the guy that was the other part of our threesome. He was good looking too. I was like, this is an accomplishment. I'm very proud of myself. All right. The Ravens win in London. I had such a tough time. Like, normally the first segment on Monday is like my audio version of a column about it. I don't even know what to say about the Ravens right now. It's so tough to talk about it because they're 4-2. They're in first place. We watched around the league yesterday how difficult the NFL. Like, no one looks like a world beater except maybe Miami. No one in the league looks like they have separated.
They don't either. I mean,
they
were losing 14-0 to a team that hadn't won a game all year.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Buffalo did spank them, so. And again, like you'll understand this more than anybody else probably. Like, the Miami Dolphins remind me of the Mike D'Antoni Suns. They're so much fun to watch, but when we get to the postseason, are they going to win a championship? Like, their defense, is it just going to all be about offense? I just don't see it. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. With the Ravens, though, it's the same story every week. And I was talking about it today, and I'm sure if Harbaugh hears any of the things I say, he'd probably be pissed at me. But, like, it's just a matter of it's the same stuff. When they win, it's the same rah-rah, I love you, I love me, I love everyone. He gets asked a question, and he sidesteps it and starts talking about the academies and the Tottenham coach and all this other like, he's the happiest guy when they win. When they lose, it's like, we're just, we're going to do this. Right. We're going to do this. Right. It's almost like the Belichick stuff, and he's miserable. And so, like, inherently, I'm upset over little things like the first half. Like the end of the first half, you have a chance to go down and get points, and they've got the ball before the half. Now, a lot of people I was around was bitching about the fact that they ran it on first down. I get it. Like, if you've ever been in a situation like that, you want to get the clock started in case you have to give them the ball back. But this team always plays like they're just okay with how things are. Like, they're content. Oh, we've got a 13-point lead. That's good. Let's just go out and run it, and see if we can't pick up first downs and run the clock out. Oh, what's that? We just turned it over and they came back. Like, they flashed it on the screen yesterday. 5 games of 10 points or more that teams have come back since 2020 on the Ravens.
Oh, no doubt.
10 points or more.
Yep.
It just tells you everything you need to know, that they play not to lose instead of to win.
There's a couple of things that are in there, right? Because I thought in general yesterday the Ravens' decision-making was more conservative, and I just wonder if that's because they've been bitten in the ass a little bit of late. And I also think that part of it is reality. They are not a good running football team right now. Lamar Jackson's a good runner, but away from Lamar Jackson, they're not a good running football team.
They only threw it once on first and goal, right? They had 9 attempts down there, and only one of them was a pass?
That's true, too. I don't know, and it goes into my confusion about all of this. I do think that, like, I have to separate this. The people that say it's time to fire John Hart, like, we're just screaming into a void. Like, it's such nonsense that I can't even engage with you. And our guy Ken Zales is one of those guys. Like, I love you, and I understand what you think you're saying, but what you think you're saying is as worthless as the breath that you're using. That the people that are hugging Jeremy with their terrible breath, right? Like, it's not. You're talking about firing the head coach of a 4-2 team that's been around for 16 years and won a Super Bowl. It's not. It's not just that it's not happening. It's that if a team did that, we would immediately say they're the most dysfunctional franchise in all of American sports. It's insanity when you suggest that. The points that you're making about how this team handles these moments, it's a very relevant conversation. I wrote a column about it last week. Like, they tend to piss down their legs when they're faced with adversity. And to your point, like, the era of getting a lead and sitting on it in the NFL is over. They were able to do that in 2019 because they could play bully ball unlike any team we have seen in the modern era of football. No one could play bully ball like the 2019 Ravens. But that was an anomaly. Like, they haven't been able to replicate that since. The era of being able to sit on a lead is over. And to your point, I agree that they tend to just sort of turtle up a little bit in these spots. And that doesn't work that way anymore in the NFL. So at some point, we're going to have to address it. If they lose 2 more games this season by doing that, if it costs them their goals, then it might be that at the end of the year they're going to sit down and they're going to have a conversation about whether or not this works any longer with John Harbaugh. But I
know we've I'm sorry, Glenn.
No, go ahead.
I know we've said this before about like coaches and clock management, and the coaches have had their issues. God knows we talked about Harbaugh with it in moments in the game. I have no idea why teams don't do, like, pay me $10 an hour and I'll come over on the sideline. I'll tell you when to call a timeout and when you should be going for it on 4th down, or, if you should be, what the numbers say. Like, that's an easy thing to look at. I'm just not sure what they want to be, because I feel like they felt so much criticism for being the aggressive team that now they've become some sort of hybrid team that questions themselves on every move. Like, it was a no-brainer to me on 4th and 1 to go for it after Ryan Tannehill had went into the locker room, and they're bringing Malik Willis out. If you don't get it, you've got him pinned all the way back up to the end zone, and you're going to get the ball right back to try another field goal. So, I mean, there were a lot of, like, little things in there, and the stuff before the half was just nauseating.
But when you have the chance to make it a 2-possession, that's the part that's difficult for me, right? Because I think you have to make it a 2-possession game that late in the 4th quarter when you have the chance. When you have the chance to say the same.
We're probably talking about different field goals, by the way.
All right, let me go back.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up. So 4th and 1. Let me make sure that we're on the same page here, because I'm thinking about with, like, what was it, 5 minutes left? Maybe it was a little bit more than that. Hang on a second. I'm getting it. There was 4:39 left when they were faced with 4th and 1 at the Tennessee 19. That's the 4th and 1 that I'm thinking about.
I'm thinking of 4th and 1 on the goal line.
Oh, on the goal line. Okay, so you're going back a little bit further. Got it. You're thinking about
that's a no-brainer right there. What you're talking about.
Okay, so you're talking about the previous drive. The previous drive. Yeah, I can listen to that argument. I can.
And then so, like, you're going for 2 in the first half to make it 14, and then at other times you're like, oh, we're not going for it on 4th down here. Like, there's just no rhyme or reason to it, and it can't just all be feel, and then you use analytics when you think it's convenient, and then blame analytics. Like, it's crazy, and all around the league I'm seeing it. Like, Arthur Smith for the Atlanta Falcons this week, his team had 2 plays that were called in. He got a delay of game after they called a timeout on back-to-back plays, and then on one of the most important plays they have, it's a 2nd and 1. They just spike the ball. They get the play in late, and then he calls a timeout so they don't get a 5-yard penalty. And it's like goofball. You're not worried about 5 yards. You're worried about the time.
Right.
The timeout was the most important thing you had.
Correct.
Why would you waste it there because you panicked?
I mean, that also might be what happens when Desmond Ridder is your quarterback. Like, that just might be.
That's fair. I'm just saying, like, I just see it every single week, and it was just another instance after watching the Ravens have an island game where we get to watch only that.
Right.
And then seeing all the other games, you're like, God, this isn't just a Ravens thing. This is around the league. They're just screwing up consistently.
I do. Jeremy Conn is with us here in GCR. I do think that the day in general was a reminder to me that, like, the league is not – the Ravens are not behind. There's – as much as we kept saying there was a tier 1 in the NFL, like, this is the NFL. There aren't tier 1s. There might be teams that are playing the best in moments, but the competition is way too close for anyone to actually separate themselves. And we know that. And every January we get back to that reminder, and yet we still do this all throughout the course of the season where we breathlessly say things like, these teams are obviously better than everybody else. So they're obviously getting better results at the moment. That's what happens, is for a while they're clicking, or they happen to be a little bit healthier than everyone else is. The moment the 49ers lost Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, you were reminded, while yes, maybe they still should have won the game because they got down and got in the field goal range and missed, a pretty makeable field goal, they were not the same team. And it's why we had a tough conversation about Brock Purdy because we knew he was playing brilliantly well, but we didn't know how much about it was him and how much about it was his circumstances. And yesterday, it looked like it was a little bit more about his circumstances than it was about him, because he was put into about the best possible circumstances that you could ever ask to be put in as a quarterback.
I think you nailed it. Like, Brock Purdy's the perfect example of a guy that can throw for 170 yards, and his coach be unbelievably happy at what he's done in the game. No touchdowns, no picks. You know, it's like he can come in and throw 5 touchdowns. And I think because of all the other pieces around him, it lets him be very comfortable to know that you've got a Pro Bowl tight end, 2 guys at wide receiver, and you can throw in, they've got some other tall wide receivers with Johnson and some of the other guys in that mix. And then on top of it, then you mix in Christian McCaffrey, who seems like the greatest Swiss Army knife in the NFL. I mean, he makes so many guys miss. It's amazing.
That's the way I felt yesterday, is that, like, I have concern. Of course I have concerns about the Ravens. How could you not have concerns about the Ravens? They are a flawed, imperfect team. But, you know, ditto.
They should be 6-0, though.
They should be 6-0. And I think that's the biggest reason. I think our biggest concern is not necessarily about one particular area of the football team. Like, I know they got 6 sacks yesterday, but I'd still tell you, I think some of that was they stat padded at the end of the game when Malik Willis was willing to hold on to the football for forever because he can't do this. I'm still telling you that of the groups, all of the position groups the Ravens have, I still think edge rush is the one that's most concerning to me, and I would absolutely be poking around on the Danielle Hunters and the Brian Burns and whoever else might be available if possible. I would still be in if they want to sign Frank Clark. I don't feel great about him, but I would keep adding to that group as much as you possibly can. But I don't think it's about the roster that we have questions about. I just think it's about this thing that lingers and watching them kind of piss away 2 games they shouldn't have pissed away, and to your point, that it goes back a couple of years. And so while the roster I think we're largely pretty comfortable with, it's this sort of, I don't know, black cloud that hangs over them of, is this just going to be who they are moving forward? They're going to be the team that plays good enough to be good enough, but then sort of disappears in the biggest moments.
And I know, like, this is ending, but like a couple of things that just kind of stand out to me, like what's going on with Rashad Bateman? What's happened there? Is there a disconnect? Is he unhappy, or are they unhappy with him? You know, and then you start looking at some of the other things. This defense has given up 5 touchdowns in 6 games, so they've been absolutely amazing. You've got Williams back there playing with one arm. Like, is he hurting the team? Is he helping the team? Like, there's a lot of things that they have to look at. And oh, by the way, this offense is literally 6 games into its career, or whatever, if you want to call it that, under Todd Monken. You know, like, we don't know what the offense is capable of looking like. The only thing we do know is that Zay Flowers looks special, and I think they got the right pick there. But I'd just like to see this offense get a little bit better. So I have no blames for Monken and some of the play calling at times, because I'm wondering if there's some sort of directive of how you want to be once you get the lead. Because if that's the case, then I don't like it.
All right. Before I let you go, now that it's over, now that we don't have to talk about it being loser talk or anything, what's your solution for baseball and the wild card thing and the layoff, and how do you fix this moving forward?
Well, I think you should have. They're probably going to add a playoff team and have everybody play the first week. They'll just have more games on, and that'll make everyone happy at that point. They expand the playoffs and kind of water down everything like every other sport has done. You know, in the NBA, it's tougher to miss the playoffs than it is to make it now.
Right.
So that's my assumption because of what we saw from, 3 out of the 4 teams getting their asses kicked, including what we thought was a legendary Braves team that was going to just break all kinds of records and go on and win this World Series. And then they barely win 1 game in comeback fashion against the Phillies. So, and the rest of us, all the other teams, they didn't win anything. So, you look at the Dodgers, their 2 best players, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, had 1 hit the entire series, and it was an infield single. So, so I think they change it, and maybe they expand it. Maybe they should go back to 6 and make the series shorter, or a 1-game playoff again, which I don't think any of us really love.
Yeah, you're probably right. I feel like that's dramatic, and you don't need to go right to that. I feel like I would not be opposed to making the division series 7 games, starting it a day earlier, telling the wild card teams you don't get an extra day off. Like, I was thinking about that yesterday. I don't really know why the wild card series can't start on Monday. It's not crazy to say a team has to travel after playing a Sunday afternoon game and play another baseball game on Monday. Like, that's
You mean something they've done all year?
Correct.
No way.
Like, why do they have to get a day off on Monday? And somebody would say, well, this is because you might have to deal with the fact that a team, has a game rained out in the last week of the season, and the only way to make it up, and it means something for the division, is to play it on Monday. I feel like that's a very specific, you can deal with that if it creates itself sort of situation. Like, you can deal. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, did you feel like there was a decisive advantage for the teams that kept playing instead of the teams that had 5 days off? And then on top of it, it wasn't even just a matter of having those days off. The other teams got to
reset
kind of
their pitching,
allocate their pitching the way they wanted because they ended up having more days off, and it just worked out for them, So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but we always inherently do this. Like I said about the Bills-Chiefs game we had years ago, everybody after the game said it was the greatest game they ever saw, and then what they wanted to do was change overtime now. I'm like, wait a minute. You don't get to have it both ways. Like, it can still be the greatest game you ever watched, and you don't like overtime because one team took the ball right down the field and scored,
That's really it's weird. I don't, again, I keep coming back to, I don't want to make it seem like it's the reason why the Orioles lost. I just think that at this point we have enough evidence to say something's got to give here. There's got to be.
The timing's off for all of them. It sucks. It's not like the other sports. Like, it'd have been nice to have a day or two off, right? And then you go back to it. Having 5 days off, like, even when you're hitting in the cage, they all say it. Ask the baseball players. They'll tell you, like, that timing comes off, but nobody wants to give you an excuse. They'd rather give you a reason of why it's happening. But ultimately, I'll ask you this too, Glenn. Like, let's say the Orioles lost and the Dodgers lost, but the Braves came back and won. Do you think we change the playoffs then? Or is it the fact that the other two big dogs lost and now it's got to be changed?
Yeah, I think it's the totality of it, right? Like, 'cause I think you always accept that these teams could lose, but I think the totality of it is what makes you step back and say, okay, there's got to be something going on here. We can't be dismissive of it as a factor and just say, hey, sometimes teams lose. There's really something going on here, and you got to do something about it. All right.
Absolutely.
What's coming up this week on the Big Bad Morning Show?
So we'll be obviously getting into the baseball playoffs, getting the Ravens, or talking a lot about the Ravens and Lions coming up. Lions have the best run defense and number 2 defense and DVOA across the league. So much better team than most people think. And how do they match up with I can't believe we're saying that. How do the Ravens match up with the Lions?
Right? What a wild and massive game this proves to be. Like an absolutely game of the week type of thing in the end. Although, Dolphins-Eagles is Sunday night, so that's really the game of the week.
And then we get Dolphins-Chiefs in 2 weeks in Frankfurt, Germany.
By the way, how nice is it that like the actual game of the week next week is a game that people are able to watch? Like what a nice change for the NFL for like the big game to be a game that's going to be on television. That's crazy. All right, buddy. ConcreteLocks.com with 2 N's, CONNCRET, ConcreteLocks.com, picks at PressBoxOnline.com. Love you, pal. We'll talk to you next week, all right?
Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
Jeremy Conn, 105.7 The Fan. JConn Sports on Twitter is how you follow him. All right, we are winding down for a Monday edition of GCR. It's time for us to get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by Superbook. Again, the line is 2.5. Ravens, 2.5-point favorites at home against the Lions next week. If you feel something about that, I'm not sure yet how I feel about it. Steck and I were saying that, like, the history of London teams coming back, you almost have to hammer the Lions. But, like, I don't know. I don't feel good. This is the other thing about the history.
Hammering the Lions, yeah.
This is the other thing about the Ravens' history is, like, they tend to, when we say that they tend to play down to their competition, they also tend to play up to their competition. They tend to be really ready for these types of games. Does that mean they're going to win, though? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to say anything about it yet. But if you are, go to Superbook.com, download the Superbook app, use the code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23, and when you do, you'll receive a same-day first bet match up to $250 win or lose. Superbook.com, download the Superbook app. What you got?
What do I have? Sorry, I clicked away. Oh, last night the Bills. They became the 5th team since the merger in 1970 with to win a primetime game after being held scoreless in the first 3 quarters.
I'm surprised it's that many.
Yeah, remember the last time that a team won a game after being held scoreless through the first 3 quarters of a primetime game? It was 2007 on Monday Night Football. and
This
the
was
score was 3-0.
Oh God, I don't remember that at all. Who was that?
That was when the Steelers beat the Dolphins.
I don't remember that.
You remember
game
that?
even a
Like, it
little
was
bit. No.
pouring rain, and it was just miserable.
I'm sure I don't remember it, but
I don't know why. I mean, I was 7 years old, but I remember this
Yeah, it's
game
weird.
very vividly, and
It's
just
weird.
be like how ugly it was. The Dolphins and the Steelers in 2007 on Monday Night Football. The Giants are now the only team in the they're the only team in the Super Bowl era to outrush their opponent, outpass their opponent, more passing yards, more rushing yards, have fewer interceptions thrown,
Okay.
fewer fumbles lost, fewer missed field goals, and still lose.
I mean, they damn near won the game at the end, right? Like they really did have a chance on that final play, but
Teams had been 134-0 when doing all of those things.
it's a
better than
weird
the other
league,
team.
baby. It's such a weird. Every time you think you know something, the Bills should have lost to the Giants last night. They didn't, and that's all that really is all that matters. They didn't lose to
So
the
like,
Giants last night.
So we do know. Well, yeah, I don't know.
What?
Like we knew the Bills were the better team, but but the Giants somehow did everything
statistically,
better.
this would go back to DVOA, right? Like DVOA would tell you that the Giants were a better team than the Bills were last night, and it's not like that doesn't matter. I don't know how to talk about these things. This is why I know it's my job. I understand that, and I don't know why you tune into me. Otherwise,
What are the answers?
I don't.
So who's winning the Super Bowl?
Believe it or not, I don't know. Believe it or not, I cannot predict the future. It's
So-
it's such a goofy thing, man, and it's this league will remind you that. This league, they will remind you that constantly. Every time you think you know something. And we do it so breathlessly, right? Where we say these teams have separated themselves. There's 6 teams that have a chance. And everybody, we say that stuff constantly. Like we think we know something. Like we think we're smart. And then the league will smack you right back in the face of you're stupid. You have no idea what you're talking about. Everything changes from week to week. The competition is too close. This is a salary cap sport of professionals. What's wrong with you thinking that you know something? We do power rankings because, again, it's a week-by-week thing. This week, this is the best team. Am I predicting the future? Not even a little bit. Probably shouldn't because I was the guy that thought the Bears were going to be good. So probably shouldn't be the guy predicting the future.
Did you see what Calais Campbell's doing? The 100 sack
sacks.
give back.
No, I don't know about that.
So in the celebration of his 100th career sack after yesterday, he's donating $100,000 to teachers in each of the 4 cities he played in.
Wonderful.
So Phoenix and Arizona,
Wonderful.
and then Jacksonville, Baltimore, and
Love
Atlanta.
that. Great
He
guy.
is
Love me
also
some Calais Campbell. Always have.
5th active player with 100 sacks.
5th active player with 100 sacks.
Yes.
Okay. So, God, who's already at 100? Now this is interesting. Active player.
Mm-hmm.
Who? Damn. Von Miller.
Von Miller has the most among active players, 123 and a half sacks.
How about is Aaron Donald at 100?
Aaron Donald is, yes, he is, yes, 105 and a half, 105 and a half sacks. For AD 99, Aaron Donald.
Like the other guys are young, so I just don't feel like TJ Watt's not there yet, and Joey Bosa's not there yet.
TJ Watt not there yet. He is 7th on the active list, 85 and a half sacks.
Is it possible? Is Danielle Hunter at 100?
Not yet. He is at 79.
Okay.
He is the 9th most among active
What about Cam Jordan?
Cam Jordan is, in fact, on the list, 2nd most among active players, 116 and a half career sacks.
So Myles Garrett isn't there yet.
He is not 80 sacks right
I
behind
don't think
TJ.
Frank Clark's at 100, but Frank Clark.
No, not Frank
God,
Clark.
Khalil Mack?
Khalil Mack is just outside. He's 90 and a half sacks. So we need.
Are these guys that, like, it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, they're active, or they?
I mean, he's like he's still playing. Like he's not. I don't know. He doesn't have a huge role. You should. I won't say you should know. I'm trying to think of a hint I can give without giving it away.
It's Justin Houston.
It
isn't
is Justin Houston. Yes.
You know what? And we actually did a whole thing about him last year when he came out to do the Bowser show about his son keeping track of what the sack total he needed in order to punch his ticket to the Hall of Fame.
112 sacks for
And I had
Justin
forgot.
Houston.
I, honest to God, thought he was still unemployed until this weekend. I saw he was in Carolina.
Yes, he is half a sack with the Panthers so far this season.
that's
But
the-
yes,
that's
that
the
is the list. That is the list of
All right, very good.
active players. And you got pretty much the whole top 9, top 10. Chris Jones rounds out the top 10. You guessed the rest.
I guess I should have guessed Chris Jones. Actually, I think that would have been a better guess than some
He's
of
at
the people that I
70 and a
was
half.
bringing
But
up. Hey, did you happen to see this? The line is set for Minnesota, Iowa next week.
I did
What do you
take
think the
one
total-
of the bets I did hit this week was the Wisconsin Iowa under.
There you go. What do you
Yeah.
think the total points is for Minnesota, Iowa next Saturday?
Where are they? They're in Iowa.
They're in Iowa
Not
City.
that it matters, I guess.
Yeah, probably doesn't.
I mean, I know the Wisconsin Iowa line was 34.5, and I was like, that's
Jesus.
still pretty high.
Still pretty high.
It was like 12-9 was the final score.
That's still 34.5 is a staggeringly low number.
So that makes me think that this number is higher than 34.5.
I'm not telling
the way
you.
you're acting. 32.5 is the line.
32.5 is
Really?
the line. According to Thor Nystrom
we
on
pick that
Twitter,
game?
it is currently the third lowest total in college football history.
Wow.
The lowest ever. All three of the lowest now involve Iowa. The second lowest total in history was Iowa, Kentucky in their bowl game last year, and the lowest ever was Iowa, Minnesota last regular season.
It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
how
Iowa, Kentucky was 32, and Iowa, Minnesota was 31. Oh, sorry, 31.5. So 31.5, the lowest combined total in college football
Jeez.
history. Right now, they're sitting at 32.5. We will see if that number comes down during the course of the week. Wild, man. Wild.
now. So without Cade McNamara now, I guess.
Yeah,
they have
everything's,
no
everything's
offense.
changed. That's a great point. Everything has changed.
Because they won. I mean, it was like 12 to. I think it was 12-6. Iowa won in Wisconsin.
I mean, I bet Kirk Ferentz would tell you it was a masterpiece.
Maybe
I
we
bet he
should-
would say it's the greatest game he was ever a part of.
Maybe we should pick that. I mean, Maryland's on bye, so maybe we should.
No, there's enough good games this week.
Yeah,
we'll do
I guess.
Navy Air Force, obviously. That's a meaningful. That one's getting CBS treatment. That one's on the
CBS.
big network this week for Navy Air Force. Also, Penn State, Ohio State is this
Yeah.
week, and
Well,
then I
there's
feel
one
like
more big game that we need then.
No, I feel like there was another big game.
I think you were right too because I was looking too.
I feel like. Oh, what was the other? I feel like there's another. Oh, there's an Alabama
Air
game.
Force is ranked now.
Oh, are they? How
Yeah,
about that?
top 22.
Alabama's got somebody this week, don't they?
Yes, Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah, that's a pretty big one.
Throwing John Little Rock a
Yeah,
bone.
give him a bone. Give him an SEC game. Oh, doesn't Florida State have a big game this week too?
Yes, Duke and Florida State. So if you want to go, if you want to go by like what if we went like the lower combined ranking?
Yeah, is Florida State's more in the national championship picture than either Alabama or
Florida
Tennessee
State
are.
is 4. Duke is 16.
Are we really going to freeze out John and totally and continue to go no SEC?
Got Utah, USC as well.
Yeah, it's a good one, but the bloom is off the rose
Stanford
for
coming off a big
USC.
win playing UCLA.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be on the list. I don't think that's going to make it. But yeah, I think Florida State Duke is a pretty good. It's either going to be Florida State Duke or Alabama Tennessee is the third game this week. John can start campaigning now, but I am with you that I'm leaning. The more meaningful game at the moment appears to be. I hate saying that, but
if Riley Leonard is hurt, that will make
it does change a little bit. That's a good point. Oh, did you see? I might have cursed him this morning.
Riley Leonard?
No, Brock Bowers.
Oh yeah, I did see. I saw literally.
Jesus.
I think Rays were coming out of break.
Right as I'm talking about Brock Bowers needing to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, he's going to miss 4 to
Surgery.
6 weeks. He's having a surgery. That sucks, man. That sucks.
Yep,
I
you cursed him. Yeah.
love.
Wow,
Riley
I was a top 25 team.
God,
I was ranked 24th.
Sucks. All right, very good. Here's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Tubular is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Pretty good Monday Night Football game. Cowboys-Chargers, 8:15, ABC, ESPN, and apparently a Manning cast on ESPN, too. Baseball, Fox, Game 2 of the ALCS at 4:30. Nathan Eovaldi and the Rangers against Framber Valdez and the Astros, which almost moves into kind of, I don't want to say must-win territory for the Astros, but, like, be wild if they had to go with Dallas down, or Arlington.
Yes.
Down 2-0 in the series. Game 1 of the NLCS, Diamondbacks-Phillies. It's a matchup of the Zacks, Zach Gallen and Zach Wheeler, the pitching matchup for Game 1 on TBS. Capitals at home tonight against the Flames at 7 on, I guess they're calling it MNMT. That's the Monumental Sports Network abbreviation that they're going with, MNMT. MNMT.
So
monumental. I mean, like, I get it.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
MNMT. I guess they could put an L in there, but
Yeah,
maybe there's a rule.
MNMT.
4 is the limit for abbreviations.
Okay.
Some preseason hoops, and then the USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw tonight at 8. Anything non-sports-wise?
There is not. No.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's not. It's
nothing
the
at all.
season 3 premiere of F-Boy Island on the CW.
I've managed to miss seasons 1 and 2 of F-Boy Island.
They say
at
you're
this
missing
point.
out.
They say so. They say so. That one and MILF Manor, I just haven't spent the time with it that I need to.
That one you are missing
I
out.
really
MILF
should
Manor.
watch both F-Boy Island and MILF Manor.
Uma Thurman's going to be on. I mean, it's all just musical people on the late night shows.
That's all they can do. The
Uma
actors aren't
Thurman
allowed to
on
work.
Fallon.
I didn't get to watch SNL yet.
I saw a couple clips.
I saw the Dion thing that Keenan Thompson
that was the one
did.
I didn't see.
That was pretty.
I saw that they did. But I didn't
there wasn't
watch
a lot there in the impression, but they did a couple of fun bits with it. Like, they did some funny shtick there. There was this. All right, I'll let you watch it. There was like a whole thing about look at me, and like it was good. It was good.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Find everything else at GlennClarkRadio.com. Thanks today to Jeremy Conn and
us.
And we'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Yeesh. Tomorrow on the program, Navy football. I mentioned they got a big one against Air Force this Saturday, coming off back-to-back wins. So we're going to check in with them as striker Luke Pierce is going to join us tomorrow. We will preview Waiver Wire Wednesday, of course, with Joe Serpico.
And we'll talk to Kadri tomorrow. Is the plan.
This is it.
Yeah.
I love Kadri. Kadri and I's friendship goes 20 years. I've played golf with Kadri Ismail, and I haven't played golf with anybody. I have sat in his kitchen. Like, Kadri and I are close friends, but I can't cheat. This is, at some point, I got to say, we at least have to be a break.
Yeah.
Normally, after 2, I say there's got to be a break. So I'm bending the rules already. This is it. This is it. No more.
I'll let him know.
Tomorrow. Love you, pal. And he doesn't make me pay him a thing. This isn't, Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee. I don't know why that became a controversy. That was a very weird bit. Like,
that Rodgers was getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I mean, if he was doing 45 minutes, I guess.
I mean, like, I kind of expected that was the case. Now, again, the question is who's paying it. Like, if ESPN's paying it, then they got to kind of answer a little bit of that, because at some point then Aaron Rodgers is an employee of ESPN, and it impacts how you cover Aaron Rodgers. If Pat McAfee is really paying it out of his pocket,
He's been doing it for.
Those are different conversations that I can see there being relevance to. It does matter if Aaron Rodgers is an employee of ESPN. Like, that does matter. But it's the same thing I would tell you. We pay Tyus Bowser to do the Tyus Bowser show. But, like, he's not an employee. It's a contractor, right? Like, so I would assume that even if ESPN is the one paying Aaron Rodgers, that would be what it is. But there are funny things about it, right? Like, and I will tell you that whenever we talk about Tyus Bowser, I don't pretend. I don't sit here and say, I'm completely unbiased about this. I'm not. Reality. Full disclosure, not unbiased. So that's how I handle those things. I know it's going to sound crazy. Guy that, giving me gifts of nice shoes, and I'm not unbiased about him. If you're looking for an unbiased opinion about Tyus Bowser, you're going to have to look elsewhere. But I will tell you that and not attempt to bamboozle you into saying that I'm completely unbiased.
This is why I don't go to the Tyus Bowser shows, to keep this show.
No, yeah, to keep it. You want to make sure I want to come out to one.
I know.
At some
do.
point. It's a lot of fun. It's a
I'm
lot of fun.
I'm working tomorrow night, so I can't make tomorrow's.
Really stupid of you. Really stupid of you to not get out to the Tyus Bowser show. All right. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners. Live Casino and Hotel, Maryland 5-Star, Guilford Hall Brewery. What a time everybody seemed to be having yesterday. A.J. Michaels, the Baltimore County Police Department, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, Superbook Sports, Harford County, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. All right. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Do we care about anything tonight? No. Duke sucks.